We'd like to add these two fractions together. To do that, we first need to have a common denominator. And so let's see if these denominators can be factored. I notice that each one begins with an x, and the only thing that goes into x is 1 and x. And so these are already factored. And so my least common denominator in this case will be the product of those two, x minus 3 times x minus 6. All right, and so I want to multiply each fraction by the part of the least common denominator that it's missing. And so the first fraction, the x plus 7 over x minus 3, let's put parentheses around numerator and denominator. And we want to multiply by the missing part, the x minus 6 in the denominator. But if we do that in the denominator, we have to multiply by x minus 6 in the numerator as well. That way, we really haven't changed the fraction, we've just changed how it looks. Same thing for our second fraction. We have the x plus 1 over x minus 6. Let's put parentheses around those. And notice that this fraction is missing in the denominator the x minus 3. So we'll multiply numerator and denominator by x minus 3. Now we've got two fractions with this common denominator, and they can be added. But you notice that really this is a product and this is a product, and so I need to find the products using FOIL first before I can actually add those terms together. So let's apply FOIL. First, outer, inner, last. X times x is x squared. X times negative 6 is negative 6x. 7 times x is plus 7x. And 7 times negative 6 is negative 42. So that's all over x minus 3 times x minus 6. Plus my second fraction. The x times the x is x squared. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. 1 times x is 1x. And 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. And that's over x minus 6, x minus 3. Okay, now, once these have a common denominator, we can add all of the terms in the numerator together. So let's look for like terms that we can combine. I notice x squared and x squared could combine to make 2x squared. Negative 6, x, positive 7, negative 3x, and positive 1x. If we combine all these things, we would have the negatives would make negative 9. The positives would make positive 8. So negative 9x and positive 8x would give us a negative 1x. And then negative 42 and negative 3 is negative 45. All over my common denominator of x minus 3, x minus 6. Okay, we would like to see if anything in the numerator can cancel with anything in the denominator. And so to do that, we have to factor our numerator. This is a little trickier to factor. I will show you one way to factor this. So we'll look over here. We're going to factor 2x squared minus 1x minus 45. One possible way is called the AC method. You may have heard of that during your Math 96 class. It's multiplying the 2 times the negative 45 to make negative 90. And I'm looking then for two numbers that would multiply to that negative 90 and that would add up to my middle term coefficient of negative 1. All right, so think about factors of 90. 1 times 90, 2 times 45, 3 times 30, 5 times 18, 6 times 15, and 9 times 10. And since 9 and 10 are 1 apart from each other, those are the ones that I want. 9 times 10 would make 90. One of those has to be negative. I really want it to be the 10 that's negative, so that when I add them, 9 plus the negative 10 would make the negative 1. And so I'm splitting this negative 1x into these two parts. So this now becomes 4 terms. 2x squared plus 9x minus 10x minus the 45. So I've just rewritten the negative 1x as these two. Now I'm grouping the first two and the last two. Taking the x out of the first two would give me 2x plus 9. And then the second two are both negative, and looks like 5 could go into both. If I take out 5, I'd have 2x plus 9. And so this and this have the 2x plus 9 in common. If I take that out of each set, I would have remaining x minus 5. And so now this is how this numerator factors. So let's put it back over here. So my numerator has factored into 2x plus 9, x minus 5, and my denominator is x minus 3, x minus 6. I notice that there are no common factors, and so I can just leave this answer the way it is. That's the final answer.